Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Matters podcast hosted by Jumpstart. We are actually doing something a little bit different this morning. We are recording live from our networking event. So, everyone in the room, just say hi. Thanks so much, everyone, for being here at our networking event. And I say this at the beginning of every podcast, but I'm really excited to jump into this conversation today. And thank you so much, Basil Adriaanse, for joining us and being with us this morning. I was telling Basil that I'm actually really excited to speak to him because I haven't spoken to him in a really long time. I just see the LinkedIn updates, and they've looked wild.
It's been quite the journey, yeah.
So I feel like I have a lot of questions myself. So really excited to jump in this morning. But Basil, why don't you kind of share with the room, share with us where the journey really began for you, a little bit about yourself, who is Basil, and what has kind of made you who you are.
So I'm a physiotherapist by trade, but that's got very little to do with what I actually do on a day-to-day basis today. But my journey actually started quite young. I qualified at 23 years old and found myself in the very precarious space of being unemployed just after graduating. I don't know if anyone's ever been there, but it becomes quite the sobering experience when you realize you spent 5 years at university and now there isn't a job waiting for you.
Yeah.
And that can be quite scary for anyone, I think, when you first graduate. And thankfully for me, I had people around me, and it just shows the importance of mentors. I had people around me who could direct me in the right direction, and I started working these odd jobs, these locum jobs, which are non-permanent pockets of employment, and essentially found myself in a space where I got to meet a very, very OG in the textiles and fabric space in Cape Town. There's this company called Rex Trueform, if you've heard of the Rex Trueform, but there was a competitor to them called Walpy Fashions, and it was run by a very old man, and I had the privilege of giving him a bit of rehabilitation toward the end of his life. And he sat me down one day and he said to me, "Basil, why aren't you working for yourself?" And I said to him, "But Mr. Walpy, I don't think I can work for myself. I just graduated. Don't you need years and years of business experience before you take on something like that?" And he said to me, "My boy, I'll back you." And I looked at him and I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know it meant financially back. And I never connected the dots. Unfortunately, he passed away before we could do anything together. But the lessons that he taught me during that time, and the one thing he said to me was, "You're here by yourself, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "You're delivering the service." I said, "Yes."
Yeah.
He said, are you going to be filling out the billing form yourself?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Yes." He said, "So what do you need the other people for?" I kind of looked at him and I went, "Okay, well, I think there's a bit more to it," but I got the gist of what he was trying to say. He was saying you have the tools within you to pursue an opportunity to start a business. Why don't you give it a shot? And it wasn't 3 months later that I actually did that. And I started my first practice at 23 years old, running physiotherapy practices. And jumped headfirst into it. And I thought, okay, Mr. Walpy sees me every day. He'll be my first client. And I think as serendipity would have it, and things would go, he unfortunately passed away 3 months later. And I didn't have his guiding hand to take me forward, but I had his lessons.
Yeah.
And I took it forward. And from there, long story short, over the next 12 years, we built a physiotherapy practice that had 9 sites across Cape Town. We were in 5 major hospitals. We also employed upwards of 20 staff, and we also had 8 administrators supporting us as well. And we expanded that to a national physiotherapy, home physiotherapy network all across South Africa within the space of 12 years. But that's just half of the journey. It gets pretty downhill after that. And then it goes good after that again, but it's been quite the journey, yes. But that's where it started, yeah.
So maybe take us through that, the journey after, kind of after the 12 years.
Sure.
What does that look like? If you can speak into some of the challenges that you maybe face, and how you journeyed through those challenges.
Yeah, so I think, when you're starting out with this concept, this experiment that is entrepreneurship, I think in the first year, you probably find out a lot more about yourself than you did in the years before that. You find out a lot of what you're made of. You find out that the world doesn't just bend to your will and things don't just happen and fall into your lap. You've got to fight for every inch of progress that you get. And then once you've tested this concept and you realize you've got customers and people actually want to buy what it is you're selling or what it is you're providing them, now you've got to find people to partner with you to get on that same mission and go forward. And that's all great. You can go through an interview process, you can get somebody excited about it. But then about a year goes by and you've got to keep them excited about it. And you've got to keep them engaged. And you've got to keep them from being poached by other companies. And you've got to keep them from starting their own company out of your company. Because now they've also learned what you learn. And now they also maybe think, okay, hang on, I'm doing this by myself. I'm billing by myself. Maybe I can go and do it myself. Yeah. And so you've got to also then manage how to manage teams. And I think oftentimes, as entrepreneurs, we become so involved and so engrossed in the marketing of the business, in telling people about it, that we become operationally weak sometimes. And we don't think about the day-to-day operations, the mundane work of running the actual business.
I love that.
And the amount of money that is lost during that process is immense. And it's in those, oftentimes it's much like life. The devil is in the detail, and you've got to make sure that you do the everyday properly so that the extraordinary can be made possible. If you're not doing the everyday properly, you're not providing the foundation, because the foundations are very boring. When you're laying a foundation of a house, it's not particularly pretty. The site is dirty, there's cement everywhere. It doesn't look like it's going to be this massive chic house. But it's that foundation that if it crumbles, falls apart, And so we need to make sure that we lay that foundation correctly before we get to a space where we're actually able to see the vision come to life. And it's in those operations, unfortunately, we see that, because when you're marketing the house, it's brochures and it's pamphlets and it's videos and it's drones and things like that, So it looks really great, That's all the flash, But at the end of the day, if the plumbing fails, you don't really have a really great house, So we need to get those things right. But coming back to your initial question of that journey, and personally for me, where I found myself was, I found that the journey of entrepreneurship was actually a mirror of, I began to see it more as my own life journey, as my own experience through this life. And I began to find that my business and my personal life began to mirror each other. So that when I was feeling down personally, that oftentimes my business was looking down. When I was struggling with shiny object syndrome in my personal life, going from pillar to post, and my business all of a sudden had shiny object syndrome, and I was moving from accountant to accountant, or from new service to new service, from new platform to new platform. And so oftentimes those two mirrored each other. And that was a very important lesson that I learned, is that, and especially when you have people that you're employing, that you need to make sure that you are looked after, you are stable, that you are in a space where you can be strong, because there's so many other people that are feeding off of that. I mean, I sat down one day with my father. I was feeling quite down and in the dumps about kind of where the business was at. We weren't growing as fast as I wanted to grow. We were only in five locations, and my father sat me down and said, "My boy, how many years has it been since you've opened up?" I said to him, "It's been 3, Dad." He says, "You've got 5 locations." I said, "Yeah." He said, he pulled out a spreadsheet. It was called My Dream Practice that I gave him. And on that spreadsheet was every hour and every day and every slot that I had available for booking. And he said, "But you've now 5 extras and you're upset." I looked at it and I thought to myself, I never took a step back and congratulated myself on what I had achieved. I was so caught up in the world of comparison, comparing myself to other people and their success, that I didn't take a step back and actually think to myself, wow, I had actually done something that was worthwhile in my own world. I had actually done myself proud. And I think that's so important, that when we as entrepreneurs grow, we need to take a step back and congratulate ourselves at every single juncture. We do it so little. We're so hard on ourselves at everything we're doing, that we don't really even give ourselves the opportunities to congratulate ourselves and give ourselves, again, that energy boost to go forward. And you owe it to your employees as well. Because if you're not fulfilling yourself, filling up your cup regularly, your employees will see it. and they will definitely feed off that. And just to make it even more intense, my father sat me down and said, "Nama, you need to be stronger for the people that you employ. Because now let's look at it. You've got 20 employees, okay? Those 20 employees have got families behind them.
Yeah.
Those families eat off the food that is provided by this business. You have a responsibility to yourself, to those people, and to their families to give yourself a win every now and again.
Yeah.
So take a step back, sit back, relax, go have a drink on Clifton or something.
Nice.
But
Close the office early.
have mimosas on Friday or something like that. But give yourself a break, and you will find that you will have the energy to carry on. But let me come back to the journey. So it's 20. So we did this in this massive scale out. We're now a national practice. We're employing physiotherapists all across the country. This is 2019. Then this funny thing happened in 2020. I don't remember quite what it was, but I mean, it was just this intense movement, this wave of change that came across. I thought there were multiple waves of change, I think, that came across us, from 2020 onward. And what had happened was that I need to give a bit of context for you to understand the gravity of this. But essentially what had happened was that we were, in 2018 and 2019, we were heavily embedded in ICU emergency type work. So what that means is that you're on call at all hours of the night. So if a patient crashes, or someone's on a ventilator, or somebody is in an emergency state, you have to come out to the hospital and you have to come and see them. Now this played put a heavy toll on my employees and on me personally, because I just become a new dad. So I'm wanting to spend more time with my child. I'm wanting to be a better, more present father. And so I had the bright idea to sort of change the business and make it more focused on outpatients, which were predictable, and make it more focused on theater cases, or elective surgeries, as it were. So what elective surgeries are is that they are scheduled, so like hip replacements, knee replacements, those kind of things. It's not an emergency-based thing. Okay, so this is 2018, 2019. We start transitioning the practice toward this. 2020 hits. We are completely out of the ICUs. Sure. The first thing the hospital shuts down is the theater.
Yeah.
To put this in context, 80% of our overall turnover did that in 2 months. Now I've got to sit down with all of my staff, okay, who are highly skilled medical professionals. Sure. I'm going to sit down with all of my secretaries and administrators and explain to them how we're going to weather the storm. Me being the optimist that I am, thought, hang on, I've faced bigger challenges in my life. Hey, getting this business off the ground was a big challenge to begin with. We can do this. We can make it happen. Let's go. With God, we can do anything. Anyway, we can do anything with God. And it's true. The saying does come good toward the end, but at that moment, it was a bit of
we didn't really know how much we believed that.
We didn't quite know what he was doing right then.
One of those things you need to say for the sake of everyone else.
No, that was definitely a faith challenging moment over there for sure. Anyway, so we had some savings. We figured, okay, fine, great, we'll pull out of the savings and we'll start paying salaries from that, because the turnover isn't going to cover salaries. Okay, pull out savings. Because this pandemic's only going to last, 2 months? Yeah. It's not going to last longer than that, surely.
A 21-day lockdown.
21-day lockdown. We'll be fine.
We can cover salaries.
No, we can do that. It's not going to be a big issue. We'll be fine. Anyway, I got to a point where we eventually ran out of the savings. And then I sat down with my wife and I said, okay, so what are we going to do now? And my wife, who is operationally fantastic.
I can attest to that.
The problem is I don't listen to her.
Basil, that's where most problems start.
Yes, unfortunately. Yeah. I think men, if anything, listen to your wives. If they got your back and they got your best interest and they've been with you while you were driving an Opel Monza that had 250,000 kilometers and you got stuck outside the Bellville Velodrome and she still stayed with you, that's a keeper. Listen to her. Anyway, she said to me, Basil, I think that the time has come that we probably look at retrenching some staff. I looked at her and I said, Lejean, these people have given their careers, they've given their lives to us. They've helped us build this business. We can't possibly retrench them. We'll make a plan.
Sure.
All right, my man, we'll trust you. Let's see where this goes. So off to the nearest financing house I go. take out the biggest loan I could possibly take out based on the collateral that I built up in the business and the assets we have there. Managed to secure that loan, and now we got runway for another 4 to 6 months. Okay, start giving runway, start paying the salaries out eventually. Now we're coming toward the end of 2021. There's no more money left now. Now we got to bat with what we've got.
Sure.
Wave 2 has hit. Wave 3 has come along as well. Theatres are still not where they need to be, and patients aren't coming to our rooms either. Everyone's now working from home. Nobody wants to go to a physiotherapy office where you're going to put your face in a bed where somebody else's face was when they've just had COVID and they had a snotty nose. So you can imagine we are not particularly enticing clients to come through to us right now. At the same time, my staff are being pinched off by rival practices because their ICUs are full and they're overstaffed, so they're having the time of their lives, and we're losing out obviously as a result. I don't mean to be insensitive toward the people that lost their lives during COVID. And when I say time of their lives, I mean purely from a business sense and from a revenue perspective. But essentially, we got to a point where we had to have hard conversations with our staff and say, I'm very, very sorry, but we're going to have to go away from this whole basic salary thing, and we're going to have to go more incentivized. You kind of only get paid for what you do. And unfortunately, when you have other practices out there that are able to offer more bolstered, more secure packages, staff aren't going to stay. So you start losing good staff. And you then start hiring whatever staff you can find. And in a time like that, where all physiotherapists were being migrated over to help with the COVID pandemic, you were left with staff that were not particularly fit for purpose. And this is also another lesson over here, is that when you hire in a rush, you tend to end up with not the best fit for your practice, or for your business rather, and that ends up costing you a lot of money toward the end. So now we had to onboard new staff. We had to teach them our methodologies, our SOPs, the very things that have made us successful. We had to now teach them, and we had to teach it to them quickly. Some learned it, some didn't, but unfortunately we couldn't teach quick enough. We couldn't learn quick enough. Our turnover of staff was exceptionally high, and eventually got to a point where we found ourselves losing clients, our reputation started tanking, and eventually it got to a point where I found myself staring down the barrel of the proverbial gun when it came to whether I could keep this business open or whether I couldn't. My mental health began to suffer tremendously during this time. I was diagnosed with clinical depression. I got diagnosed with anxiety. I was also requested of me to be admitted to a facility to seek management. I outrightly refused. Out of pride, it was stupid. I shouldn't have done that. I should have gone. But because I had such a great support network in my wife and in my church and in my friends around me, I was able to bat through that. I got the help I needed, put on a lot of weight. I picked up 35 kilograms in the space of 9 months. I got several other diseases. My liver started giving me problems. My kidneys started packing up. And this was all as a result of this road of entrepreneurship. It's not for the faint-hearted. It will take its toll on you, and you have to protect your mental health. You have to look after yourself. And as a result of that, I wasn't present for my staff. I wasn't the best leader during that time. And I wasn't able to really give them everything that they needed during that time. I could have been better. I wish I was better. But I just wasn't able to give them what they required during that time. And in July of 2022, after a long, drawn-out battle, I decided to close Adriaanse & Associates Physiotherapists after 13 years of running that business.
Sorry, Basil, what did it feel like? Finally getting to the moment of, I think it's time to kind of draw the line in the sand on this. Like, how did you know that was the time? Because I think they're two sides to the coin when you get to. It's been such a long journey, so it's like, wow, is the breakthrough just like 1 month? We just need we've put our heads down for so long. Is it just one more last push, or is it like how did you know which side of the coin you were on?
The truth is I didn't.
That's a good answer.
I didn't know until probably about 1 day before I decided to close that business.
Sure.
You fought so many battles. For 13 years you fought. It's not in you to just give up. You've seen worse than this.
Yeah.
And the practice was, at that stage, the size was still 4 times the size of that dream practice business that I showed my dad. It was my success metric was still 4x. but you were so deep in the hole financially, and the business just didn't make any more sense because you were running it at such a high scale that it just didn't seem like it was feasible any longer. And I really came down to it when I thought about why I was doing it, my why. My why was always, I knew that my family came from a very underprivileged background. We didn't have much growing up. I always make the joke that my mother was able to make the best meals from soya mince, chicken necks, chicken livers, ox liver. I mean, the only like real proper protein we got was on Sundays. You know, she made a plan for Sundays. It was chicken on a Sunday. You know, but that's where I grew up. You know, and I wanted to provide a better life for my family. Yeah. I wanted to provide a better life for my daughter, for my wife, and we wanted to do it. We built that business together. It wasn't just me. And when I realized that this thing was, I mean, my wife sat me down and said, "This business is going to take you from us. You're sick. You're not present. You're not a present father. You're not being a present husband. You're not leading our home." And she had a very frank conversation with me about it. I'll be with you no matter what. That I'm here with you, but I need to let you know that this is you're not fulfilling your why. This business is not helping you do that. And I just broke down there, and I said, "Okay, well that's it. And that's done. It's over." And unfortunately, a lot of people were caught up in the collateral damage. A lot of people were caught up in that. We had employees that found out the next day with no warning that they didn't have a job. We had business partners who found out the next day they didn't have a partner. But they might have found out the next day that they didn't have a Basil because I was either having a heart attack or worse. So I had to make a decision. It was the best, which of the worst do you want to choose? And it really came down to that.
Sure. Thanks for sharing that, Basil.
The story gets better. It's a lot better now.
I want to build the suspense a little bit. Because the LinkedIn updates are good. Just like, how do we get there? But while we are here and kind of, I guess just hearing your journey through mental health, what do you think the role of looking after your mental health? I know you shared from your journey. So what do you think that looks like for people along or across the entrepreneurship spectrum? Because I think you have one experience of entrepreneurship. And I think, to be frank, just at Jumpstart as a team, we've thought long and hard about this question, like, what is entrepreneurship and how do we want to define it? And the answer we kind of circle back to often is it's people who want to make lives better for others, whatever that looks like. And so that kind of lifts the lid on it a bit. It's not only owning a business. We see a lot of solo entrepreneurs. We see a lot of creators in the space, but still want to make lives better and want to add value to our world and to the people around us. So what does mental health look like or kind of what do you have to say about mental health and looking after it for people across that spectrum?
Okay, so at 4 a.m. you need to get up, you need to write down what your gratitude is. At 5 a.m. you got to make sure you get your oats.
Journal.
At 6 a.m. you got to do this. And at 7 p.m. you got to go for your run and your mental health. No, I'm just kidding. But if you go into TikTok, that's what you're going to find. Look, it's different for everybody. And I think in the entrepreneurship space, we've got to be so careful of not getting sucked into the one size fits all and get sucked into this, hustle culture and this, grind culture. We've got to really be careful of those kind of things because you can feel guilty. You can feel like I'm not entrepreneuring hard enough, if I'm not doing those things. Entrepreneurship it links so closely back to that why. And when you deviate from that, you need to know that you're out of alignment with what you started this thing for. And so you need to have somebody close to you that is a sounding board, somebody that you trust. It's so important. Have a person that you can speak openly and frankly to about what concerns you, that has your best interests at heart, so that you can know when you're deviating from the why. Secondly, prioritize your health first, for your physical health. Not just your mental health, your physical health. The importance of exercise, just walking. That's played in my mental health is really incredible. Good food,
Yeah.
Nutrition is
Yeah.
so important.
Look after your gut.
I tell you, it just gives you the building blocks to be able to get through a day. And it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be expensive. I mean, I found my rhythm with water, red meat, vegetables, fruit, and the odd protein shake. Like I found my medium with
Yeah.
that, you know. It might be different for you. It might be, I don't know, salad or
Yeah.
cucumbers and ham or whatever, but find something that is nutritious to your
Yeah.
body, that gives you the nutrients that you require for your brain to work properly, and for you to get through a day, and then sleep.
Sure.
Sleep. I suffered with insomnia quite a bit during my bout of depression. I glorified insomnia, in fact.
Yeah.
I got to a point where I felt that if I was sleeping later, I was doing better. If I was grinding through the night, working the hours and nobody else was working, that I was doing better. But then when I was supposed to be awake and actually doing what I was supposed to be doing, I wasn't even present because I was so tired in meetings, you know? So sleep, incredibly important. And then I think just making sure that you take you take your regular breaks. And when I say that, you know, you take breaks when you feel your body needs it. Some of us just love working.
Amen. I'm one of them.
I'm one of those people. I can work like you've never seen, and I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I love it. What I do now, today, I don't need a holiday from what I'm doing. I love what I'm doing. I don't need it. But I know that there are other things in my life that give my life color, like my daughter and my family. And
Yeah.
I'm going to go play football later. That's going to give my life a lot of color, even though I'm probably going to lose. But I know what gives me energy. I know what gives my life color. And yes, entrepreneurship does give me color. It does give me an element of that, but there are other things as well. So fill your cup with that.
Yeah.
But do those practical things on a daily basis
Yeah,
as well.
no, I love that. And to be honest, that's a lesson that I've had to learn. I was telling my husband Calvin on Monday, we were chatting, and I said, well, Monday it was Workers' Day, so it was a public holiday. And I went to, we decided we love walking to like coffee shops we kind of around where we live. And so we decided to walk to the coffee shop, and I also love the morning time. I just love being awake in the morning. My husband's on the other side of the spectrum. He's like, stop singing, it is 6 a.m. I'm like, what are you doing? So we decided to go for this walk, and we were sitting down we just ordered our coffees, and I said, for what reason does our Monday not look like this? Why do I feel like I have to work on a Sunday evening? But I love working on a Sunday evening, I'm not gonna lie. But why do I feel like by 1 o'clock on Monday morning, I've had to have gotten through everything for like what I would do over a 5-day course? Like a large part of kind of rearranging and kind of stepping away from a more formal type of employment. I say formal, but you know, a more structured 9-to-5 employment, was to give ourselves time to live and to kind of set our own pace and to figure out like what really made us human, you know, and what we really wanted to put our time to. Like there was the why. There was such a big part of the why. But I found myself like Sunday evening, I'm still sitting behind my laptop till 9 a.m. And because I love working, my brain is so sharp in the morning. I can get done all my big tasks by 10 a.m. if I sit from 6 o'clock. And I know that about myself, and I absolutely love I love that. but why do I always feel like everything needs to be done by 10 o'clock on Monday morning? For me to have felt like I've accomplished something. So it's been, hearing you say that, it feels a lot more like lived experience for me. And kind of like, why am I not, I wanted to set up my life like this so I can go to a gym class at 11 a.m. in the morning if I wanted to. Yes. Why do I never make the gym because a last minute meeting has to be scheduled at that time? No, schedule it when it's, you know, like nothing needs to happen. Like the urgency with which we think we need to live life at is such a farce.
100%. 100%.
And so Calvin's kind of motto at the moment is like, I will slow them down and I will slow you down.
Good man.
So I really resonate with what you were saying, and I also kind of, I mean, I kind of just let you speak because I was like, oh, Basil's answering all the questions that I prepared for you to answer. But I really loved what you were saying a couple of moments back about making sure that those foundations are in place and making sure you're doing like your 1 to 5, like have your 1 to 5 nailed.
Yes.
And it's almost like when I was, I've tried to train for the 2 Oceans multiple times, but hopefully next year's the year for it.
Go for it.
And there was, while I was training, it was about getting the first 5 kilometers and making sure you could do a 5K very comfortably, it was a breeze. You didn't think about it. But if you think about 5K in relation to 21, it's only 25% of the race. But making sure you can do that with such ease.
Yes.
And I think that's kind of what you're saying. Make sure your 1 to 5 is like you've got that nailed and waxed, and everything else is kind of is built upon that. So thanks for sharing that. I think let's look at the uphill a little bit. What tell us, so after kind of you decide to sell the business, what happens on the other side of that? Where does it
So just to correct you on the physio side, so actually we shut that business down. We didn't have an offer from another practice to actually buy us out.
Yeah.
But we decided against it because there were just so many cobwebs to unravel there, that I just decided, just let it die.
Yeah.
Let it go down, and we put everything in storage, and then went into the process of liquidation with that business. So it was quite a roller coaster there. So I took 3 months off after that, just to find myself again and really ask myself what I want to do with my life, because I knew it wasn't physiotherapy any longer. So what are you going to do now? This is where I think I've got a lot of respect for what it is you guys do. Content. And the content economy has become something of it's an incredible medium through which to communicate, and it can do so much for getting your message out there and articulating it in a way that others can understand. So I figured, I've got this thing in my pocket over here. I've got a camera on it. I'm going to start talking about what I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
And I pulled it out, put it onto a tripod, and did exactly that.
Nice.
I was always passionate about the business side of medicine. I was always passionate about how you structure practices, about how you market practices, about how you bring feet through the door. I knew that I knew how to bring people into a practice. I was able to service over that 13 years, we were able to service 25,000 patients. Sure. So we were able to definitely get feet through the door. That wasn't a problem for us. But can I teach others how to do it? Can I help others get their practices busy? As we all know, social media marketing agencies are all the rage at the moment. They're everywhere. Everyone's starting one. But I thought, with my years of experience in business, that I could add a nuance to it that made a lot of sense to businesses. And so we focused really on creating content, or I focused rather, really on creating content around that. Explaining to business, to medical practice owners, what a business looked like essentially, because many of them actually don't really think about the business aspect of their practices. They're so caught up in the clinical aspect that they don't actually know or really think about what their business is actually doing on the side of it. And we got to a point where we started communicating those metrics to them in a way that they could understand, and we eventually started gaining some interest, and people started asking me, hey Basil, can you help me out with my marketing? Can you help me out with my business? Can you help me out with structuring my practice? And we eventually got to a point where we signed a couple of clients. I then started a company called Social Medical, which was a consultancy specifically to assist healthcare practices to grow and scale their businesses. And we were then able to garner quite a bit of attention from that, not only in South Africa, and this is the power of content, we actually got clients internationally.
Nice.
So we got clients from the UAE, we got clients from the East Coast of the United States, and for many of them, they're quite smart. They realize that they pay us in dollars, and so it's cheaper to hire me as opposed to hiring, Tony in California. And so we started working that, and then all of a sudden we became an international medical marketing agency. And the kicker was that I understood exactly the pains and processes that all of the business owners I was working with was going through. And so my experience and what I had been through, my hurts, my pains, my growth, could all be utilized, and I could spot the signs in their businesses way before it was even happening. So I could call something out and say, that's going to happen in 2 weeks' time. And then it happens, and they call, Basil, it did happen. Do you mind coming in for? And I was able to actually utilize that experience to land and gain clients. Eventually, this caught the attention of a up-and-coming, quite maverick healthcare group called Inno Health Technologies. They are run by two well-seasoned, very astute, high-level entrepreneurs. I've got, actually three, my apologies. Their CVs read like, what every LinkedIn bio dreams of one day looking like. And I got approached by one of the directors to engage in a conversation, to assist them to help their clinics grow. Eventually, they mandated me to come up with a marketing strategy and proposal for the entire group, which consists now of 7 companies. Eventually, I wrote a proposal for them, which assisted them in landing a deal to the tune of just short of R250 million. And we were able, through our strategy, to assist them with that. They saw my potential in that, and they said, you're not going anywhere. I said, okay, fine. I was very, very... because I'm an entrepreneur, I don't work for people. I can't. It's just not in me. I can work with people, but for someone to tell me, hey, Buta, it's 9 o'clock, where are you? Nah, you're not going to get that.
Not going to work for me.
Nah, I'm having coffee at Bootleggers. I'm having my scrambled eggs. I don't want to hear anything about you. But they made me an offer to purchase my company. And this is 6 months after it had opened. It was quite a lucrative offer. I cannot disclose it. I'm bound by contract, but it was enough money to make everything that I'd been through over the last 13 years very, very worthwhile. I then did what we call a share swap. And so essentially I didn't take the cash. I took shares instead in the holding company, and now I have a board seat on the board of directors of Inno Health Technologies.
Nice.
And that has been the come up since then. Yeah. So, yeah.
Wow. Sure. We can give a clap for that.
That's good.
Wow, that's very, very encouraging.
Yeah. So one of the last interesting thing about that is that, I spent my entire career trying to convince doctors to refer to me. And now I spend not most of my time, but a lot of my time trying to hire doctors and keep doctors busy. And that was quite the flip,
Yeah.
And the lesson over there is that until you tell the world what it is you're doing, until you're brave enough to put that camera in your face and actually speak, you never know who's listening. You never know 100%. Who might be out there. You never know who might be seeing your unique genius, your unique perspective on things. Yeah. You might think to yourself, I haven't got much to offer the world.
Sure.
But, there might be 10 million people doing what it is you're doing, but they're not you.
Yeah.
They're not you. Yeah. And you are meant for your people.
Yeah.
You will find your people. And for your people to find you, you need to put up a smoke signal.
Yes.
And that smoke signal is content.
Yeah.
You need to make content. It's not a non-negotiable any longer. If you're an entrepreneur and you're not making content on an almost daily basis, you are losing out on the opportunity of a lifetime. Because I can tell you now that the same insecurities that you have, the fears that you have, your rivals have, your competing companies have. You must put that camera in your face and you must talk.
Yeah.
You must tell them what it is, what you have to offer.
Sure.
So, yeah.
So good, Basil. So good. Where do I even land this ship? No, that's... Let me start taking my content now. No, I love that. So another phrase that kind of floats around the Jumpstart team is... start where you are and use what you have.
Yes.
And number 2 is the best camera to use is the one you have available to you.
100%.
And I think sometimes, not only from a content perspective, but we kind of put so many unimportant obstacles in our own way. Like when I upgrade my camera, I'll start. When I get this mic, I will start. When I get this brand deal, then I'll kind of start doing
excuses.
it. And they really are excuses. And one thing that Calvin and I talk about often is like, how do we make the goal so small that there is zero excuse not to do it? Like what is that? What does it need to look like for the goal to be so small we've like come to the end of ourselves in terms of the obstacle that we can put in front to not do it.
There's a doctor on TikTok that grew to 150,000 followers pointing at stuff. She puts text on screen and goes boom, 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 boom. She's got 150,000 followers.
Yeah.
There's no excuse.
Yes. If you don't like your face in the camera, put your finger on the camera.
Put your finger on, yeah. Do something, but make content.
Yes.
Yeah.
The content space has been, the creator economy has just been so interesting and something I've looked at from afar. I've stepped into trying to like figure it out. I don't think we are going to figure it out, but I think it's definitely something that's like unwinding. And I think the people who were early adopters of it are really reaping the benefits now, But I think that there's still so much scope for everybody else to kind of, to come on board and kind of make that space themselves. And I often speak. I told someone in a meeting yesterday. We were talking kind of strategy for an app launch, and I was like, we were kind of talking about like the content diversification, and I was saying like we need to create four platforms.
Yes.
And I said I'm in my TikTok era at the moment. I wasn't always, but I'm in my TikTok era. And one thing I've really grown to appreciate about, particularly the platform, is authentic expression. I love hearing a voice from the Cape Flats. Never in my life would I like find so much entertainment from like hearing voices from the Cape Flats, from just like things that are not necessarily always glorified, but people who are in this community, speaking to their communities, and have people, tracking with them.
One of the most followed doctors on TikTok is Dr. Randall Hotel, a good friend of mine. He's from Manenberg, and he regularly speaks in his Cape Town vernacular accent, shares quips and quotes and stories and about his lived experience.
Yes.
He's got, I think, probably now close to about 50,000 followers on TikTok by being absolutely authentic.
Yeah, and I think that there's so much permission for us to be authentic, and just permission to be ourselves and speak the way we want to speak, and just bring our full selves into the world. And there's so much that we can learn by watching other people do it, but also just deciding to jump on it while we like figuring it out, like build a plane while you're flying.
Yes.
Like I think that's the world we're living in. Is we kind of have to build a plane while we're flying. And I do say I think it's a privilege of mine, but I do have the privilege of sitting sometimes on both the brand and the creator side of these conversations sometimes. And let's just transition to a little bit of a creator segment in this. And why I think it's cool is because I've been able to see the dynamics kind of on both sides. And a client that I work with, he's a financial coach, and he pitches this. He wants to kind of pitch the savings challenge, and I was like, so. I was like, well, we needed, like, we ran a kind of a test group last year. It was very, very successful, but I'm like, we need to scale this year. And he's like, well, why would a brand want to partner with me? And I'm like, well, let's sit down and let's talk about this. Through your consistent content that we've been producing, you speak every week to a growing mailer of like upwards of 250 every week to an engaged audience. We're growing your social accounts. You aren't selling product a lot of the time. It's largely educationally driven. And what brands at the end of the day want is access to your community, because they do not have that access. And so as we build and just by being ourselves and finding what we're passionate about and sharing it, we give people who want access to our community access, and they will pay for that access.
We, as part of Inner Health Technologies, we are busy building out a wing of our business called Inner Health AI. And Inner Health AI is wholly concerned with trying to figure out how we can utilize data to better help patients in the poorest communities of South Africa get access to healthcare.
Yeah.
And in that, we've been able to consult with companies to try and determine what it is they're looking for and how they can, what data they would require in order for them to be able to make products and services that can better assist these underprivileged communities. And I can tell you that data is definitely the new oil. And even if you have an audience, albeit 250 people, of highly focused, highly niched, well-researched audience, can make all the difference.
Sure.
So do not even think that your audience is too small for you to make a difference.
Sure. Yeah.
I have less than 3,000 followers on LinkedIn, and that was enough to change my entire life.
Sure.
It's you don't need massive followings.
Yeah.
You need the right following.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Get out there, make that content.
Yeah.
Put yourself out there, build your list, build your own ecosystem, build your
Yes.
community.
Yes.
It's the best asset that you have.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any last words of encouragement or advice that's kind of been all throughout, but just maybe one more opportunity to share any like lasting thoughts for anybody in the room before we take some questions?
You started this journey for a reason. Remember that, and be kind to yourself throughout the entire journey. That's all I really want to say. Because if you're kind to yourself, you'll have the energy, you'll have the health, and you'll maintain the building blocks that got you started in the first place.
Yeah.
God's birthed something in you. I believe that. If you might not believe in God, but that's okay. There's special talents and gifts that you've been given. The world deserves to see them, and you have a responsibility to share them. So go out and do it.
Basil, thanks again for joining us this morning and sharing your journey and your just so vulnerably sharing your highs and the lows that you experienced. I think there's been a wealth of value and insight in it for all our listeners and for those in the room this morning. Thanks, Basil. If you found this podcast insightful, please do leave a review. Check out Basil and the companies that is involved in. And we'll see you next time on the Matters Podcast. Thanks. Cheers. Bye.
Cheers.